Hello, thanks for stopping by and welcome to the channel. What we're going to do today is we're going to take 3 of the pedals that I have done little demos on, and we're just going to compare them. They're not very similar, they're not similar as pedals. They are all gain based, but they're very much covering the spectrum of gain for the cheapest price. So I will link all the relative videos down below. However, the 3 that we're going to check out today is the Vintage Overdrive, the US Dream, so this would be our Distortion, and then the Vivelux Fuzz. So we're going to go from Overdrive, Distortion to Fuzz. A very quick recap. This one was the cheapest tube screamer type pedal that I could find, and this one cost me £12.24. Now, I have currently seen these are going for about a tenner. So the price has dropped by £2. I feel scammed. However, I think it's a great price for this little pedal, especially an entry point. You've got the US Dream here. I believe this was £10.41, free postage, and this was the distortion pedal that I've got. We're going to try that as the higher gain of the 3. Then we're moving into the Fuzz. We've got the Vivlex Fuzz. This was £9.42. However, I did have to pay £2 postage, so it came to £11 or whatever. So these are the 3. We're going to get set up with a clean amp and an amp on the edge of breakup, and we're just going to hear sort of the similar or as close to as same parts using the same guitar so that you can hear the difference in the sounds. What I'm probably going to focus on is the gain, so I'll get the tone and the level to about where we like them, or where I like them, sorry, and then from there I'll just show you the cascade and gain from all the way down 0 all the way up to fully engaged, just so you can get an idea of how much gain is on tap per pedal. And I say we'll start with the Vintage Overdrive and we'll go all the way through to the Fuzz, just so you can hear the 3. And we'll do that with a clean amp first, and then after that we will go into an amp that's on the edge of breakup, just so we can hear it in that that environment as well, as I do think these pedals are going to lend themselves characteristically to different types of use, of course. So yeah, I'm interested to see how we come out with. What we're probably going to do is play it on the Les Paul. So we've got humbuckers with the Sun Bear pickups in it, so quite low output. So we're really going to make the pedals and the amp do the work, rather than hitting with a high output pickup straight into the amp. So without further ado, let's get into the Vintage Overdrive and let's see how it sounds through the clean amp first. Here we go. Okay, so there we go. There was just a really quick insight into how these three cheap pedals all sound in comparison to each other. As I say, we had it through the Victory Duchess initially, and then we had it going through the Victory Kraken on the Gain 1 channel, and I tried to keep the clean tones in there just as a reference throughout, just so you could hear how the pedals were affecting each individual amp. If I had to pick a personal favourite, and this is quite weird for me, I'm actually going to go for the Vintage Overdrive. The reason that I prefer this pedal out of the three, I think actually just in terms of how it sounds as a pedal, it's the best in trying to do what it does. I think the US Dream has a little bit of an issue where when you turn the gain or distortion knob down, you lose some frequencies in there. I think it becomes very dark. You lose all the highs. It's quite weird. So that's definitely something that goes against that pedal as a whole. And then a fuzz, I do love a fuzz. I really love fuzz. I think I've got at least 4, if not 5 on my pedal board as we speak. However, the thing about fuzz is a fuzz does what a fuzz does. Now, they all do something slightly different, and that's what I love. They all have different flavors. But regardless of what amp you're putting this into, it sounded like a fuzz. You know, whereas the Vintage Overdrive with the Kraken, it was able to push it into a higher, tighter, gainier sound. Whereas when it was in the Duchess on its own, but you crank the distortion, you could get closer to a blues rock, potentially a low gain classic rock tone. And I don't mean your slash tones. I mean, you know, your much lower gain classic rock tones, as well as being able to do that blues tube screamery overdrive thing. You know, you stick that with a Strat and you're away. The US Dream, again, I think it kind of does one job and it does it well, but you have to have this distortion knob at least sort of 10 or 11 o'clock, just because of how that's being affected in terms of the EQ. However, that's just my personal favourite, and, you know, with any of these three, you know, you've got £9, you've got £11, you've got £13, or, you know, whatever they were at the start, I can't remember. They are cheap pedals. You could buy all three for under 30 quid and have a great setup of pedals to play with. So, you know, I think there's always taken that into account, is for the price of one Boss DS1, you could get all three of these and have a cacophony of tones at your feet. So I don't know if there is one that is better than the other, but hopefully what this has done is just shown you a little bit about what each of the pedals can do in different contexts, whether it's low gain, high gain, trying to push, trying to tighten up. So yeah, that's all this was really for. I think it's worth noting that the reverb from today came from the E-Rock Mini Universe, so the cheap reverb pedal top left. There was no reverb coming from the amps or from Logic. But there you go. There's my comparison video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it's given you some insight. Maybe if you're thinking of getting one over the others, you can now say, yes, I'm going to get the Vintage Overdrive or the US Dream. So yeah, all really good, all good fun. Hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Was there one that you thought sounded better than the others, or perhaps one that you really thought sounded crap? Let me know. Let me know below. But if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like, and maybe if you're feeling zesty, hit that subscribe button. But if not, no worries. There'll be another video next week. So yeah, thank you very much for your time today. Hope you've enjoyed it. And until the next one, take care.